Greetings and welcome to another episode of Association Matters, the official PCAAE podcast for conversations in governance, leadership, and impact in the association sector. We're your host. I'm Bobby.
And I'm Emily. And today we're going to be covering one of the key topics for associations, one that I'm rather passionate about, digital transformation. This is a big topic. Digital transformation means different things to different people at different times.
So, for this podcast, we will feature a global company with 25 years experience in delivering innovative technology to the association sector. To help us unravel what digital transformation means to associations, we are joined by Mr. Jason Morris, founder and CEO of Membes.
Jason and the Membes team specialise in building scalable, secure platforms for the association sector and remain committed to making modern, future-ready association management software, or AMS for short, accessible to all associations.
So again, hi, Jason. Thank you for being here. To start off, appreciate it if you can explain your views on digital transformation for associations and what should associations digitize first?
Great. Yeah, thank you, Bobby, and really glad to be here and glad to be a part of this initiative. So in terms of digital transformation, like it is a buzzword at the moment, and it's something that associations need to be looking at very closely. Obviously, there's a lot happening in the space at the moment. First, what they should be looking at initially is their data and their back-end processes. So the critical of anything is the foundation. So if you're going to build a house, you need to get the foundations right. And with digital transformation, getting the foundations right is really, really important. And a big part of that is your data. So where is your data stored? How is it stored? And what are you storing? So in terms of what are you storing? So currently it needs to be everything. The more you can store, the better. You need to be capturing as much information about your members and your stakeholders more broadly as possible. Particularly with what's happening with AI, it's really critical that you're capturing as much information about your members as you can, because this is going to help you really evolve and not so much go through a digital transformation, but make sure that that digital transformation is ready for what's coming well into the future. In terms of where, many associations store their data in Excel spreadsheets. It could be in a WordPress plugin. It could be disparate. It's really important to get that data centralized and into one system, because data can cross-reference. You get a lot of information from being able to, a lot of insights from being able to cross-reference data. Security obviously is also important. That's why it's important to get the data into a secure system. I mean, at Membes, everything we do is security first, and security of data is critical. So getting it into a secure system, a centralized system, is important. And also, how is that data stored? So it needs to be stored in a format that can be diverse in its usage. So obviously, when you have some data, you need to be able to run it through reports. You need to be able to use it for communication, for segmentation. You need to increasingly make it accessible to AI. As we move into the AI world, that data needs to be accessible and consumable by AI. So that's the how you store it is really, really important. So I think the first port of call for any digital transformation at the moment is looking at your data, how you store it, where you store it, and what you're storing.
Data really is that's foundation that everyone needs in any organization. What do you think are the common digitalization mistakes, and do you have any examples?
So particularly with associations, and historically we've seen it a lot where associations will look at the front first. So they will look at their website. So many associations that are about to go through a digital transformation might have a website, maybe a WordPress plugin, or maybe a website and an Excel spreadsheet. So they then think we need a new website. So they go off and they start engage a web development company and start building the front, which is, the analogy I like to use for that is that you're plugging in the lamp into the wall, and you haven't got the electricity and the wiring sorted yet. So it's really that the biggest mistake is looking at the website first, and then they might go and spend all their budget or a good chunk of the budget on the website, and they've got a really pretty looking website. But then they start to think about what is really the biggest and most important part of it, which is that back-end data, your processes, your automation. How are we engaging with our members? How are we processing renewals? How are we processing joins? How are we communicating? They're all sort of back of house, and they're a little bit less visible. Obviously, the website's very visible. So that is often perceived as the first port of call. So I think that is, we see that as the biggest mistake. I think another one, just sort of thinking about it now, is also disparity of systems. So, getting a little CRM over here and a communications platform over there and an event ticketing system over there. So then your data's kind of everywhere. That's another common mistake that's made. Associations really need to move towards what we refer to as a hub and spoke model. So you need that centralized system, and then you have your other software talking off that. Most good AMSs now, which we try to do with members, ticks off most of the boxes. But then obviously if you do need to integrate, you're integrating into what we call a hub, in a hub and spoke model. So the two major challenges really are focusing on a website, and that's probably the biggest mistake we see. And the second is just disparity of systems, trying to plug different systems in and hoping that somehow it's going to be their new digital platform when it becomes a never-ending maintenance task, essentially.
Thanks very much for those insights, Jason. So this is our last and third question. How do you think would an association build digital capability?
I think, like anything, planning is important, and the first objective really should be to define what you want from your digital capabilities. So what is it you're trying to achieve? So, and with associations, what we recommend you be looking at is things such as, streamlining processes. So obviously you're wanting to scale operations, you're wanting to improve member engagement, you're wanting to improve member value. You need to do that in a scalable way. What is it that you want to do? And then these things, doing them scalable, this is where technology really comes into play, and this is where the digital transformation comes into play in terms of being able to improve value, improve our member engagement in a scalable way is essentially what primary objective of a digital transformation is. What are those? And without getting caught too much in the detail of how does the join process work and all that sort of detail, at a high level, you want to improve member engagement, for example. You're trying to improve operational efficiency. You're trying to facilitate an organic community. What are the key things you're trying to achieve out of the digital transformation? Having that in place then allows you to go out and work out what are the priorities rather than trying to achieve everything. What are the key things we need to achieve, and what's the general timeline for that? So how do we move forward in a digital transformation that's going to have us on a digital framework that gives us those key objectives that we're trying to achieve as an association?
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jason, and for your insights and advice. Just to wrap up, like always, here are our 3 key takeaways for our viewers. Number 1 there is start with your data, not your website, as tempting as it may be. Digital transformation isn't about having a new website, it's about having the right foundations. Associations need to focus on what data they collect, where it's stored, and how it's captured. That means going beyond the basic contact details and into tracking member activity, engagement, interests, event participation, interactions. If the data foundation isn't strong, everything built on top of it will struggle, especially as AI becomes more integrated into association operations, and we want it to be taking advantage of that AI. Number 2 is build the back end before the front end. So one of the most common mistakes associations are making are upgrading that surface layer first, which is usually the website, before fixing the core system underneath. As Jason said, it's like plugging in a lamp before wiring the electricity. Instead, associations should invest first in a system that centralizes their data, automates processes like membership renewals and event registration, and connects everything together. Once that's in place, then the website becomes a powerful extension, not just a digital brochure. And the third one is define your goals. So digital capability should be tied to purpose, is what I heard there. And associations need to be clearly defining what that purpose is trying to achieve, whether that's increasing member engagement, improving operational efficiency, delivering greater value at scale, or strengthening community connection. Once those priorities are clear, the roadmap becomes easier to shape. And this kind of reminds me that a clear long-term roadmap is makes it much easier to invest in technology that supports your strategy holistically and not across those segmented systems that you touched on. Progress becomes deliberate, scalable, sustainable today and for the future.
Excellent, Emily. Any last words, Jason, before we end this session?
No, that was a great set of takeaways there, Emily. I think you summed it up quite well. So,
good. Thank you.
No,
Okay.
just no, other than the fact that obviously we're here to help with any associations that may be doing any digital transformations, even if it's just for advice. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason, again. And thank you, viewers, for joining us in Association Matters, where governance, leadership, and impact come together. This podcast is brought to you by the Philippine Council of Association and Association Executives and Membes AMS.
Subscribe to our podcast and visit the PCAAE website for updates and full episode notes. Until next time.